is up, Retro Maniacs? My name is Mike. His name's Joe. His name's EP, and we're here to talk about cards. You know, last week, our old friend Ziggy No had a kind of an interesting little back and forth with us. He brought up the question asking me, don't you think local card shops are really the next Blockbuster? Like, meaning that they're going to be obsolete and they're going to go away. I thought this would be a really interesting discussion to make into a show today. Just have a little bit of a talk about some different things. And because I think it's a really good question with the way things are going. Do you think that the regular old local card shop, like it's always been, will exist anymore? So first thing I want to talk about is like there are a lot of things that have changed in the hobby. You know, you have so many more online marketplaces now. You have breaking, which is a different thing. You have Tops Now. You have Panini Instant, stuff like that. You have Panini and Tops selling a lot of stuff direct to their customers now. How do you think like the way that the hobby has evolved impacts like your, and now I'm not talking about Jeff Wilson's card shop. I'm talking about, you know, every town's mom and pop kind of card shop out there, the ones that have been around for maybe 10, 20 years or more. How do you think the way the hobby is evolving affects like a local card shop?
You know, you said, we're not talking about Jeff Wilson's card shop, but I think that has to be brought into it because I think Michael Rubin has said this is what he wants card shops to be like, which could be a death knell for those mom and pop card shops that we love. I actually don't have a local card shop here. I've gone to a local card shop near, I'll have a meeting out in Green Tree and I'll go to the local card shop there sometimes, but it's not like you guys do. You'll go to Doc's and things like that. But I don't think it's the way of Blockbuster, but I do think that the way the industry is going and with how Michael Rubin wants card shops to be, I do think those type of card shops will get squeezed out if they are in any way dependent on new sealed products. If they're a card shop that's dependent on singles and things like that, and they're not tied down to just having wax, I think they can survive. But the ones that are tied down to wax, I could see those card shops going away, and it would be a shame. But that's kind of what Fanatics and Michael Rubin are really pushing.
I agree with you, and I was talking to the John who owns UConn recently, and he said that it's just tough for him to get cards. He had a box of Panini Gold. Gold, not a gold label, whatever the gold product is, comes in like the box is like a gold bar.
They look like gold bars, yeah.
And he pretty much paid like the market value because just to get like one box in, just because that's where he is. He deals with a lot of wax. He does have a cool singles. Me and Mike, we've all gone there a couple times and looked around. He's got really cool stuff, but especially when he goes to card shows and stuff, he'll take all of his wax with him. And he said it's tough to get stuff at decent prices. So I agree 100% with that. Where with Docs, they do have some sealed stuff there, but I think a lot of their customers are people who come in and buy the singles. And just the other day, Rob Mingles, my buddy Rob, who do my work podcast with, he was there and he witnessed somebody spend $1,000 on singles. And so, I could still see that working, like you said, completely, Joe, like people who rely on selling the cards and not the sealed stuff are going to probably survive a little better. But I feel like it is kind of like a scary situation for shops in general.
Okay, I'll add my insight as a former shop owner back in a different period of time. But like looking at my list here, the innovations and stuff, it is easier for people to buy stuff other places right now. But I also had a shop at a time where there wasn't an internet, and then where there was an internet, a shop where there wasn't an eBay and where there was an eBay. And a lot of these things can actually be an advantage for a local card shop as well. If you're dealing, first of all, the talk about wax, I think I know it will become tougher and tougher for a smaller shop to get wax. At the end of the day, though, they're not making money on wax.
That's true.
It might actually be a blessing in disguise if they're not being bothered trying to compete with wax, because this has always been the thinking in this stupid hobby. No matter what you paid for a box, you're marking it up maybe 10, maybe $15 if it was expensive. The markup on wax, especially for a small shop, is so little that you're probably better off not having that much money invested in it to make such a small return. And a lot of these things a shop can use. There's more online marketplaces. So maybe you have more places to get rid of cards you can't sell in your shop. You do have to evolve, but I don't think you have to become Cards HQ. Like you look at Card Collector 2's shop. That's kind of like that hybrid, that he's not quite to that
100%.
Cards HQ, but he's not that old dingy card shop that has been there for 30 years, but he has a lot of the same things that old card shop has, the singles and the cheaper stuff. He has some of the things that Cards HQ is, but like it's a pretty good update to what the local card shop is. And just because there are other ways people can buy doesn't mean that there aren't other ways that that card shop can now sell as well. People don't look at it from that perspective. So I think a lot of the innovations and stuff can actually, now if you're just a card shop that just doesn't want to change, those card shops are going to go anyway, because let's be real, like when I started my card shop, I was in my early 20s, and the older people were like in their 50s now. Now those people are 70s and 80s. If they're still in it, they're not going to be around much longer. Let's just be real. I'm already well into my 50s. So, those shops just won't be there because there's nobody there running them anymore. The old timers aren't going to be around anymore. We're not going to be around at some point in time too. So things will change that way. But I do think that there's a lot of the innovation that card shops can use to their advantage. And I used eBay. I used eBay a lot. I would not have been open probably as long as I was if it wouldn't have been for eBay coming into existence and me being able to use that platform to move stuff that I couldn't necessarily move at my shop. So there are advantages there and opportunities there for card shops.
But before we move on, before I forget it, because I don't have a pen and paper like you in front of him. I know you sold a lot on eBay because I was usually the mule that would take them to the post office, and man, it was like a Jenga puzzle. It was crazy. I one box full.
I've witnessed it before.
It was crazy. But I actually want to applaud you bringing up Card Collector 2. We make fun of him a lot. I know I do. His content is definitely not for me. But he has what looks to be a nice, legitimate local card shop.
I like his shop a lot.
Looks
I absolutely
really
do.
nice.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what he does on that aspect. His content is not geared towards us, for sure.
Yeah.
But his card shop, it's something that if we lived in that area, I could see us going there and just going and shooting the shit with the workers, the employees, with him if he's in there. That card shop seems legitimate to me. Another point, and I was kind of working it out in my head when I'm like, well, as you're talking about innovation and, you used eBay, I'm thinking, well, couldn't they just then shut down the shop and just use the online platforms? And then I was working out in my head, well, no, now they have a spot for people to come to sell them cards that then they can turn around and either sell at their shop or sell on eBay. So to have that brick and mortar, to have people, it's not as easy as putting up a Facebook ad and finding these great collections. Mike, people would come to you and say, hey, do you want this stuff, more often than not? So having that opportunity for them to come in and sell you things to replenish the inventory, that makes having that brick and mortar more important.
to kind of riff off of both of you guys, like one of the things, like having a shop in Pennsylvania, like you're going to sell more Philly stuff and more Eagle stuff, and so you're going to be able to buy that stuff on eBay too now more readily than you would be way back when. Like you're going to be able to source that sort of stuff, and like you said, like sell the other stuff like online. And I think that's a really important thing. And I just wanted to say that I wanted to put the innovation and evolution in my initial conversation about it. And I forgot Mike got to it, but that if you're a shop not going to evolve, like you're going to be in real trouble. Like they're going to be the ones that are in real trouble.
And I would rather go to Card Collector 2's shop than Jeff Wilson's shop. Just as a collector,
as someone who's been to Jeff Wilson, I completely agree.
Absolutely.
I completely agree.
With all the different online marketplaces and stuff, do you think there are what are the advantages for a buyer for buying the stuff online instead of going to a local card shop?
I don't think there is an advantage. I'd rather go to a local card shop and buy things from them. It's not a card shop, it was a card show, but I kind of like have the same mentality there. Our buddy Troy went to the local, I guess not super local, but the Philadelphia non-sports card show, and he was able to get a card that I was looking for my collection. That card I would not have been able to get online. I haven't been, and if I had, it would have been more expensive. I feel there's the opportunity to go in, negotiate, maybe trade. Like the online thing, like eBay's great, and you get a lot of eyeballs for sure, but there's not that connection you can make where, oh, hey, I have this card. Would you be interested in maybe this card and cash? There are other things you can do outside of the online thing that I'm as a buyer, and I don't do it myself, so I'm kind of a hypocrite here. As a buyer, I think it makes more sense to go to a local card shop to see if they have what you're looking for, because I think a deal is easier to make, or some level of deal where it's, cash trade, whatever, is more possible.
Yeah, there are more advantages. There are some advantages to buying online. I can buy a card at 3 a.m. I can buy a card, I can buy any card, not any card, but like I can find a 1995 Rashawn Salam Fleer Ultra Gold Medallion insert card or the regular card, no problem whatsoever if I'm searching on eBay. But the thing is, you're going to pay $2 for a 25-cent card. Like that's that's kind of the trade off there. And I mean, so that there are advantages to that, but like 99 times out of 100, if I have the opportunity, I would definitely want to go to the shop and buy.
Okay, here's a question. We've seen that GameStop was getting into buying PSA graded cards. Now they're going to be a group submitter. Do you see a day where GameStop becomes a national franchise kind of a card shop where they switch over maybe a little more from gaming to cards, or become more of a hybrid, if not full out into mostly a card shop?
That's actually really
idea
interesting. Yeah, because I see people, when I go to the mall fairly infrequently, to be honest, but when I go to the mall, I'll walk past GameStop and there will just be people standing there shooting the bull with the people behind the counter talking about games. I mean, so it's not a local card shop because it's a chain, but there are people locally that that are working there. Now, I could be completely wrong, and maybe I just happen to walk past the one day that some guy's gabbing to another guy, and the guy behind the counter is like, "We just shut up and buy a game and leave." I don't honestly know. So comment below if you just hang out at a GameStop. But I could see that because they are collectibles. There are, it is not beyond the realm of possibility that someone goes into a GameStop and starts talking about strategy about this new game that just came out. Like, oh, what are you doing with this? What are you doing with that? I think that's a great idea. I mean, if they really want to just dive in, again, I made the joke, they're like cockroaches, they're going to be here until the end of the world with Twinkies. I mean, if they want to innovate and do something different so that they stand out, I think that would be a really great way to do it. And they're kind of making moves towards that, at least a little bit.
Seems like it, at least. Yeah.
This is
you need a card person. I'm sorry. One last point about this. You need a card person to work there, though. Like, it can't just be GameStop employees just hanging out and not knowing about cards. What makes local card shops so great are those relationships. We're like we're proof of that, right? The three of us. If you don't have someone behind the counter who you can get along with and talk about what you like, then it won't work. You need someone who knows what they're talking about, who's affable about it, and you can build that relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I agree with that. I feel like the great idea. We should clip this out and send it to them. And Mike, you take full credit and say, just give me some cash for this great idea. But I could see them doing like a hybrid store where they have half games and half cards, because like you said, Joe, every time I've been in a GameStop, maybe not every time, but most of the time when I'm in a GameStop, you're like, I hear people having the conversation, talking to people about games and that sort of stuff. And generally the people that work at GameStops are knowledgeable about the games, at least about the games that they're selling, if not knowledgeable, they're gamers themselves. And I agree that you need to have a card person. I feel like they probably have hired some card people for their most recent endeavors, and hopefully, if again, fingers crossed. It's always a fingers crossed thing. But hopefully, they say, hey, look, if you're going to do this and turn this into a half a card shop, or turn some of these into a whole card shops, you need to have card people come in and have the same kind of, because if they can see their employees are gamers and enjoying it, and that has a big pull for their customers, they should also see that the cards are part of that.
And let it be known that I was selling games and cards together in the same place 30 years ago.
Like
comic books and DVDs.
You're
Exactly.
not to wax poetic about Mike's Upper Deck or anything, but like you could have kept that place going for decades if you wanted to. Like there were extenuating circumstances, which, you know, I think all of us agree why we understand why you stopped doing it. But the way you were like always kind of changing, you had to change with the times. You were, oh, comic books are hot, I'm going to get comic books in and sell the shit out of comic books. Video games are hot, I'm going to get used video games. I'm going to get VHSs. How many VHSs from you did I buy, or trade in for fantasy football credit? Like, but that's my point. Oh, Mage Knight was a thing for a hot minute. I'm going to get Mage Knight. But the thing that made your shop so good is you educated yourself on the stuff you were selling. That's kind of my point about GameStop. You can't just have like a $5.15 an hour, whatever minimum wages person there now selling stuff. It's more than $5.15, right? I hope.
A little bit.
My minimum wage was $2.83 because I was a waiter.
$7.25 in Pennsylvania, right?
Is it? Okay,
Yeah.
so you can't pay someone $7.25 and hope that they're just going to figure it out. I mean, you need to have someone who actually is knowledgeable and is willing to learn about whatever the new thing is that they need to learn about.
Okay, so that's a good lead in. What if you had a card shop? If you were one of these guys that's had a card shop for the last 20 years, what do you think you would need to do to stay competitive in this changing hobby? Since you have this gigantic company that's coming in, and the Jeff Wilsons of the world are representing what that company wants, what our overlords wants LCS to look like.
Right.
What do you think if you're, say, Doc's Card Shop or Mike's Upper Deck or, Yukon Card Shop over in Montandan? What do you need to do to make sure you're around in 10 years? Is it possible?
I think you need to lean into nostalgia. I think nostalgia is a real thing, right? And we're back into this hobby because of it. I think you need to lean into that and not worry about what's new. Sure, you can try and source cards that are ultra modern, but at the end of the day, the people that are collecting ultra modern are going to find other ways to get those cards. You need to be the difference. You need to be a store that's willing to embrace like the 90s. And, we sell wax. It's all from 1991 to 2005 or something. Like the people that collected cards back then who didn't have the money to buy certain things, well, they can come into your shop and they can open up packs of cards and things like that. I think you need to be retro, to use our our thing. You need to be more retro when it comes to stuff like that. And I think shops like that will have a better chance of surviving. Maybe not, they're not going to be billionaires from it, right? But to your point, Mike, they weren't going to be by getting wax from Fanatics anyway. So lean into something maybe you were passionate about, and then you think your customers, your customers better than we do. You know what they're looking for. I doubt if they're coming into your shop, I doubt they're looking for ultra modern anyway. So maybe lean into that retro vibe.
I think you need to expand your horizons, and yeah, like financially, be financially responsible when you're doing this kind of stuff. But I mean, like if I owned docks here in town, and if they don't have a scanner to scan cards in, like I would buy one immediately and get that stuff listed on eBay, because I mean, you could that place could probably compete with Burbank with the number of cards they have in the middle of their store. Like they have a lot where they could just get them listed. Like go obviously keep some stuff there for the people that come in and like to go through those. But I mean, there's probably like a gold mine and like volume sales there that they should be taking advantage of. Also, if you're a card shop and you're not also setting up at card shows, especially if you can find shows with cheap table fees, like go do that. Like expand. Same thing with flea markets. Like if you're going to stay alive, you need to make sure you are at least considering all potential sources of income and potential sources of moving cards. Like you can't just think that things are going to stay the same if the prices are going to go up. And like we talked about at the very beginning, maybe a little bit less of the wax and a little bit more of singles and that sort of stuff, and trying to find cheap sources of cards as well. I think that's would be the big stuff that I would do.
Yeah, I think you need to have new stuff too, Joe, though. Like you have to have a mix. I think it would be good because a lot of shops you go into is all new stuff, and then other shops have a lot of older stuff. Like I think you have to find that good mix so you can service more people, so you can open up your customer base. You have to use technology like EP doing the scanning and stuff, but like not only that, like not only eBay, you could list on Sports Lots or on ComC,
right.
or Fanatics Collect, maybe if it gets to a certain point, or have your own website. Like maybe just start building your own website where you have stuff available and people could see what you have in stock at your shop before they even get there. Like you always have to be looking for ways to be able to sell stuff to more people. That's what I did when I have my shop. That's not something that changes. It's not any kind of special thing that I was smart about. Like you kind of know that, well, I'm in a little town here. My clientele is limited by the population that we have here. So I have to go find the other population that might want to buy it. You could pull, if you pull $1,000 card out of somebody who's on a team, like a Dallas Cowboys card here, and we're in an area where Steelers fans and Eagles fans are, you're going to have a harder time selling that than someplace else. So you got to find places to do that. And you have to find ways to differentiate yourself. Like that's what people that have card shops need to do. Like try to figure out what things could be coming instead of, oh, this is hot and like I gotta do this because it was. Like we were on top of Pogs long before Pogs got popular. And I made a ton of money on it because I was kind of the Pog person, because I was authority on that. Like, and I still like to try to find stuff. Like I was buying tons of the Bowman U basketball, not because of Victor Wembanyama. I was buying it because of Caitlin Clark. And I wish I would have even bought way more. I'm not into this full time. If I would be doing this for a living, I would have had a lot more. But I had her cards and I got her cards graded before that was the thing to do. And it worked out in my favor because I was like, I feel like she's really popular. Never would have guessed it would go to this level, but like you have to do that and you have to see things and you have to just don't do the same thing that everybody else is doing because you're just competing with them. Be different. And that's what a lot of the shops are going to have a hard time doing. And I am afraid like the longer term shops that are set in their way are kind of the ones that in 10 years might not be here.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I want to say that's not even the best example of you kind of having some like foresight into something. I think it's like you ripping boxes of Super Mario or the NES cards and grading those. Like, I think that's actually a better example of you being like, no one else is doing this. I'm going to try something different. and you did really, really well on those, to the point where I think other people are doing that now.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
or your pack stack sales. I mean, that's something I hadn't seen before. So that's something different, But that's a good point. Just doing different things. And to my point before, Mike, it was more. I was talking about wax. Like, I wouldn't be going for ultra modern wax if I was going to open up or try and be different. It would be like having packs of like 90s, early 2000s stuff available to come into the shop and rip, and maybe, build the community that way. And, oh, while they're in here ripping packs, maybe they'll see I'll still have ultra modern singles. But if you're not making money on the wax anyway, and then you have to bow down to the overlords to even get the wax, move on from that. That needs to be in the rearview mirror for you.
Oh, Joe, you just you said the word that I didn't even think about this last topic: community. Build a community. That's the whole point of why we love Mike's Upper Deck so much, is that having that community. But we would play Red Zone, we would play fantasy football, all that sort of stuff. And if a card shop can do that, like, that is probably the number one thing they should be trying to do, is to build that customer base with a community of a customer base, more so than just worrying about customers. Like that's a huge deal.
That Green Tree shop that I told you I've gone to, I think it's called Green Tree Sports Cards. Ironically, they sell sports cards, but when I walked in there, the 2 or 3 times I've been there, guess what they were doing?
Playing Pokemon.
A bunch of tables were set up with Pokemon cards. Like, they were doing a ton of Pokemon stuff, and that like, they have Pokemon days where people come in and play and trade and all that stuff. That community building is a big thing, because if you're going to be a local shop, you need to be like part of the community. You can't be like Jeff Wilson's place. I was there. It was in a strip mall, and it kind of reminded me of just walking into like a Target. Like, it didn't feel like a community to me. You need that when you have a local card shop.
Yeah, and like, a lot of the older dealers and shops and stuff are afraid of trade nights, but like, look at Card Collector 2. He has trade nights and stuff. He hosts them at the National. Like, it's a big part of the hobby. Yes, you may not sell cards, but you don't have every card people want. But if you can draw people into your shop, it's never a bad thing, whether they're buying something,
right?
Yeah, that place or not. Like, if they're coming there for trade nights, when they want to get something that they might be able, buy some supplies or something, I could order them on. I can just run down to there. Yep. They have the trade night. I'm in there. I know they have them. I saw they had them. Or, this player had a good game. The card shop, I remember I saw his rookie card in the case there. Like, again, you have to build that community, because that is the one thing a local card shop has over any online marketplace. Like, you're just buying stuff from people online. You're not developing relationships. Like, we're here 30 years later talking on YouTube about cards because we had a shop and we got to know each other there and became friends there. And a lot of people have that same story, and people can continue to have that same story. And again, differentiate yourself. That makes you different than all the online options and stuff. So, okay, this could easily be like a 2-hour show. First of all, before we wrap things up, in the comments, let us know what you think. Do you think in 10 years, the local card shops, like we know them now, are going to be around? Do you think they're going to be evolved, but still around, not around at all? Let us know. This is meant to be a community forum. I really want your feedback on this, because I'm interested. We're in our own little bubble here. We've known each other forever. We have great memories of the shop. Maybe we're off base because of our biases of what we knew and what we loved. So I want to hear from you guys, please. If you've never commented on a video before, comment on this one, because agree with me, don't agree with me. It's just all about what your opinions are. And I'm really interested in hearing people's opinions on this, because, again, shout out to Ziggy No for bringing this up. I think it's a fantastic discussion. I would love to have like 6 or 8 people and do a live stream and talk about this. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
If you have a shop like the one we're talking about in your area that you go to, please let us know too. Like that'd be really cool.
So the big question, it's 10 years from now. I don't know what you're wearing. What's 2034? We're all still alive. We're all thriving. We've lost weight. My gray beard is starting to turn blonde instead of gray. what do you think? Where are card shops going to be? Are they going to be around? Are they going to be like Blockbuster and totally gone? What do you think, Joe?
No, they won't be totally gone. The ones like I think if they stay status quo and they just refuse to pivot, which some will, they'll be gone. But as information is moved around so much quicker, the internet is there are some places out there that wildly don't have internet, but as that expands, as people are more willing to just stay home and buy stuff online, if there is not a reason to go to a card shop, people won't go to the card shop. There needs to be a reason. There needs to be a draw. So if people aren't willing to change or make people feel like I need to check the card shop first before I buy it online. Like I've had situations where I am willing to do that. I'm willing to go to the card shop and buy it for the same price or even a little bit more to have it, to get it from a local business. People need to feel that draw to those places. If you're not going to change and you're just going to stay where you're at, you're going to be gone. You are. I mean, you're going to be the way of Blockbuster. But if you're willing to pivot a little bit, distinguish yourself from the other card shops, distinguish yourself from just letting someone buy it online easily, you'll be able to stick around, and there will be card shops that will. I do think that a lot of them, because we know this hobby, we know this community, a lot of them probably are too stubborn to change. That's the problem at the end of the day. But if you're willing to change, you can survive.
Yeah, I agree 100% with everything you said, Joe. I think 10 years is a long time, but not a long time, if that makes any sense. Like, it's a long time if you're struggling right now. If you're struggling to make ends meet right now, like, you're probably not going to make 10 years. But if you're doing okay, if you're actually doing well, like 10, you're definitely going to be good in 10 years, because you're probably doing all the things that we talked about. You're building community. You're using the resources available to you. You're expanding your different income streams. And so I feel like the local card shops are going to definitely be here in 10 years. There's going to be plenty of them. It won't be Blockbuster. There won't be like one local card shop somewhere in like Indiana, like the one that's left or whatever,
Alaska.
Right. I think there's going to be plenty of card shops around now. And who knows, in 20 years, I mean, again, that's even longer. 20 years, maybe things change, but I think 10 years is not far enough away for the Blockbuster situation to happen.
I agree. I think there will be less. And like, I agree with you, Joe. The older ones, the dinosaurs, the ones that are set in their ways, I think they will be obsolete within 10 years. I think maybe a lot of the newer shops that have opened that take advantage of technology, maybe do some breaking in their shop. Like I strongly believe that if the shops take advantage of the evolution of the hobby, that they will survive as well. It's not going to be in the same form. I don't think the card shops that have just been around forever, that have the same inventory they've had since the 90s, and I really don't feel like they'll be the place where people are going to go. But if you're doing some breaking or you're selling online, there are just so many ways that you can take advantage of it. It doesn't have to be a negative when a new technology, a new way to sell cards, a new way for people to buy cards also means there's a new way for somebody to sell. You're not just buying, there's another part of that transaction. And why not me? Like, you have to have that, oh, I could do this. This could help me grow kind of mentality. And hopefully, some of the newer card shops, because it's not like, I don't know how they're doing, but I'm sure there's some of them that are finding it wasn't as easy as they thought it might be. Hopefully they know a little bit about business. They understand a little bit about customer interaction and what you need to do. But I do think if you take advantage of that stuff, they'll still be around. It's a different situation than Blockbuster. You had a whole format that was gone. And cards aren't that way. Like, maybe if physical cards someday totally
I was going to make that point.
All NFTs, then I could see it happening. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think all the card shops have to be like Cards HQ but they're gonna have to be better than the card shop they were 20 years ago. So
I
They
think
need to be card collector 2. They need to be closer to card collector 2 than probably what some shops are today. They need to find that balance, and I think they're a good example of that balance. Really feels like we're talking very
I
highly
know.
of Brian from Card Collector 2, but
Well, the
still,
deposit went through last week.
yeah, okay,
so-
okay, yeah. I knew there was a reason. Okay.
Yeah, I think having that mindset, like Mike had that mindset for his shop. I think having that mindset will allow you to continue on, and also will push you in a position to see the opportunities like Mike sees before other people see them. Like having that open mindset is a huge deal. I agree.
And hey, maybe I'll open another shop. I don't know.
Yes.
I thought this was the
Yes.
announcement. I thought
This
this
was
was
like-
the
I enjoy this stuff so much. Like I really do. Like the thinking about that, like the actually doing it part. I don't think I would
Well,
enjoy. But
EP
the
would quit
thinking
his
about
job.
it.
Yep.
EP
Yep.
would quit his job. Rob can work from anywhere, so I'll quit my job and then we can move back
Okay.
to Central.
You guys
Wait,
can
that
run
would
it.
involve me.
Yeah, no,
I'd
I
have
don't
to
wanna
move
do
back to
that.
Central PA.
I can be the idea guy and yeah, get on top of things. All right, but absolutely, if you're watching the video, let us know in the comments. Give us your thoughts. I really, really, really want to know. And maybe this is something we can follow up on because I think there's still a lot of meat left on this bone.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about, but you know, nobody wants to watch us talk for 3 hours.
Some people do, and they're weird.
Unless it's on a weekend night, yeah, and we have maybe a couple beverages. But hey, that was a lot of fun, and I'll see you next week, guys. Take care.
See you, boys.
See ya.